Prehistoric desert footprints, in this case 120,000 years old, are the earliest evidence for Homo sapiens on the Arabian Peninsula, and these have been found in the deserts of Saudi Arabia. This is from The Conversation, Dr. Richard Clark Wilson from Royal Holloway University in the UK. Kindly consider supporting my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. An amazing find, considering that the desert is not a very common place for people to travel. Now, humanity originated on the African continent is the theory, at least 300,000 years ago. We know from fossil evidence in southern Greece and the Levant, modern-day Israel, that some early members of our species expanded beyond Africa about 200,000 years ago, and again between 120 to 90,000 years ago. They likely traveled through the Sinai Peninsula, which formed the only land bridge connecting the continent of Africa to the rest of the world, before moving north into a landscape with the Mediterranean climate. Now remember, we had weather changes. If it was an ice age then, that means that the water levels were much lower. So the islands, for example, in the Aegean Sea were much closer to each other. Some of them were even connected land masses. And the Mediterranean Sea was much smaller and much more shallow. So traveling would have been much easier in that time. Now, it was not known, though, at what point humans turned south after crossing the Sinai Peninsula, reaching modern-day Saudi Arabia. It's also often assumed that they may have taken a coastal route, avoiding the currently harsh desert interiors. Previous fossil finds show that this was not the case, with humans moving into the heart of Arabia at least 85,000 years ago. Now new research pushes this date back even further. Now footprints, of course, you leave footprints in something that's muddy or wet that leaves a clay imprint, which means that there must have been water there. And we know that the Sahara Desert, the Arabian deserts were not always deserts. There are those that claim that tens of thousands of years ago these were lush areas and not desert areas. But going back to this, colleagues and I discovered, he says, human and other animal footprints embedded on an ancient lake surface in the Nefud Desert in Saudi Arabia that are around 120,000 years old. These findings represent the earliest evidence for Homo sapiens on the Arabian Peninsula and demonstrates the importance of Arabia for understanding human prehistory. The Nefud Desert in modern-day Saudi Arabia lies around 500 kilometers to the southeast of the Sinai Peninsula. Today, the Arabian deserts are some of the most inhospitable environments in the world. They would form an impassable barrier for prehistoric humans or large animals. Yeah, but that's if you assume that they were deserts at that time. They probably were not. They were probably very lush areas. Now, going back to this, imagine standing at the foot of hyper-arid desert equipped with stone tools and not much else. Could you get across? Probably not. Again, it's my conviction that these things were not deserts at that time. Now, going back to the article, scientific analysis shows that for most of their recent history, they were climatically similar to today, hyper-arid and impassable, but there is also evidence to show that at certain times in the past, the deserts transformed into savanna-like grasslands littered with freshwater resources. These green phases were likely short, probably lasting no more than a few millennia. Nonetheless, they provided windows of opportunity for humans and other animals to move into a new green landscape. We know from fossil lake sediments in the Darfur Desert was one of the most of those that periodically transformed into a more attractive landscape in the past, and the new footprints prove that early humans took advantage of one such window. Fossilized footprints, we were able to date the footprints by using a technique called luminescent dating to a period of about 102 to 132,000 years ago, based on wider regional evidence for increased rainfall we suggest that they date to a period about 120,000 years ago called the last interglacial. We know that around this time the vast river system spread across the Sahara Desert, with Middle Paleolithic archaeology scattered along them. Other evidence for increased rainfall at this time comes from fossil stalagmites found in caves in the desert region in Arabia and 500 kilometers north of Nefud in the Negev desert of Israel, of course. These features only grow in conditions where rainfall is greater than 300 millimeters per year, substantially more than the less than 90 millimeters per year they receive today. While it's difficult to know for sure which species of human left these prints, we think they were most likely left by our own, that is, Homo sapiens. This is based on the fact that Homo sapiens were present in the Levant, 700 kilometers to the north of the Nefud Desert, at a similar time. Neanderthals were absent from the Levant in this period and did not move back into the region until thousands of years later, when cooler conditions prevailed. Estimates of the human's mass and stature based on the footprints are also more consistent with our species than Neanderthals. High-resolution history. In addition to human footprints, elephant, horse, and camel prints were also found. These footprints, studied in detail by Matthew Stewart at the Max Planck Institute for Chemical Ecology, provide a wealth of new information regarding prehistoric interactions between humans, animals, and the environment. Footprints are a unique form of fossil evidence that they provide precise snapshots in time that typically represent a few hours or days. This is a resolution we do not get from our other records. They also allow us to understand the behavior of their makers, which is something we cannot get from fossils. This allows us to understand the relationship between humans and other large animals at a geologically precise moment in time. Environmental analysis on the lake sediment shows that the lake contained fresh drinkable water, while the variety of footprints shows that humans, elephants, camels, and horses were using this resource at a similar time. Human and large mammal movements would have been closely tied to fresh water, and the pattern of footprints show both forged on the lake bed when it was temporarily exposed. Humans may have been drawn to the area as they tracked large mammals who would potentially serve as their prey for food, of course. Now, surveys and analysis of fossils recovered from the site also shows that there were no stone tools or butchery of fossils. This indicates that the footprint makers only very briefly visited the lake, foraging for resources before continuing on their journey. It's not clear what happened to the people who left the footprints, but evidence suggests that they, along with their other early Homo sapien explorers, either died out or retreated to more favorable environments as aridity returned to the desert. This is on the conversation by Richard Clark Wilson, PhD candidate in geography at the Royal Holloway University of UK, and its Creative Commons. Please leave your comments below. Thank you.